Track that out.
You wait out to your car until it's
No,
nice.
that's pretty close.
A little bit of traffic, I'm in trouble.
Will the traffic that way?
Calling the Southeast Polk Board of Education meeting for May 4th, 2023 at 5:30 PM. Karen, can I have roll call?
Lori,
Here.
Rick,
Here.
Bridget,
Here.
Tom,
Here.
Brett,
Here.
Chad,
Here.
Whitney,
Here. Okay, I need a motion to approve the agenda. Is there any changes to the
No
agenda? No changes.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Chad. Second. Thank you, Bridget. Karen.
Rick,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Whitney,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes. Right at this time, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, do we have, oh no, I'm skipping ahead. Board Member Powell, would you read the district vision and mission?
I will. Southeast Polk will learn, lead, and live. Success for college, career, and civic life. Engage all students in learning a challenging curriculum delivered through quality instruction.
Very good, thank you. At this time, do we have anyone that wants to submit public comments or has submitted public comments? Seeing none, moving along to the consent agenda. Can I have a motion, please, to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Chad. Can I get a second? Second. Thank you, Bridget.
Bridget,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Whitney,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Very good. Moving on to old and new business. First item is item A. Fiscal year 2024 salaries and wages, administrator and other professional staff. Can I get a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Brett.
Second.
Thank you, Rick. Any discussion, comments?
Yes, I do this, I think, every time. So this one still bothers me as far as had Kevin pop this out. So thank you, Kevin. But so my first year on the board, if we looked at average salary between our administrators and certified staff, it was right around $40,000. And so we've done this percentage increase every year to where now that gap has spread to almost $60,000. And I say the percentage game is not apples to apples when you're talking to your employees. So we have a teacher substitution shortage. We know our teachers are kind of in high demand, low supply, and that's not looking to change anytime soon. So the fact that we have them bargain and fight and then give them their 4%. And then we do this every year. And then so that averages out to, I think, around a $2,700 raise per employee. And then we flip that around and do that to the admin, and that almost doubles. It's like a 50, what was it, 5,400 or whatever, as far as average dollars, which is a big deal when you're talking raises. So that money is, like I said, is piled up over my time on the board to where we've driven that out to where I think it's kind of damaging us as far as the talent that we're trying to attack. And what we're trying to do for our students is get more teachers in the building, get more kids in front of. So we have a good administrative staff, everything sits, love giving raises. You can't give the same percentage to two different classes of employees when their salaries are so much different. I mean, we're driving that gap up there. And when I look at like fiscal integrity and school plan and all that, it's kind of counterproductive. And I kind of scoff at every business that does the same kind of thing, where they sit and drive their wages of their administrative staff up while sacrificing that of the people that are maybe in touch with their customers and things like that. So I don't think it's a good business model. I don't think it's good use of taxpayer salary or wages. So I have a problem with it as far as looking at that gap and how that's expanded over the last 8 years I've been on the board. It's kind of disheartening. So I just think we kind of need to look at this and think about the message that we want to send to our teachers and to our other staff as far as saying, yes, thank you, but an extra $1,000 to my teacher or 2,000 or 3,000 or to my janitor or to my bus driver or whoever else will impact them, I think, significantly more than it would our administrative staff who carries that higher salary. There's a comfort zone within a salary saying, hey, after you make X amount of dollars, you're in a comfort salary as far as that goes. You're not like fighting day to day. And I think we still have a lot of employees that fight day to day. And those are the ones that, if there was this extra money in there, those are the ones that could have benefited the most out of that. So I think we have to keep that in mind going forward and thinking, okay, how do I justify saying, hey, these employees are worth $5,700 this year. You're only worth $1 million this year. And that's the message that's going out. And I've heard a lot of upset employees already over this. And I think a lot of them carry it with them. They're not really willing to speak up because I don't know why we're always afraid of our jobs in this industry. And that kind of blows my mind a little bit. And I've struggled with a lot of issues with that, where it's just like, hey, speak up. And they're like, oh no, I'm worried about my job, right? But I'm like, the discussion is a healthy discussion. But that's where I'm kind of looking and saying, how does this benefit where this district is going? How does this benefit us in recruiting more teachers and recruiting more personnel that we need that are in direct touch with our students? So that would be, I guess, my question is, how is this moving us forward in our mission? And how is this going to improve our kids directly and their educational opportunities and the results we get from those? I mean,
What comes to mind for me right off the bat is every employee is a valued employee, no matter what their job is. And say in the bank, if the bank wide gave a percentage to some employees that are newer employees versus other administrative employees, but they go across the board with the same percentage. So I don't think that's unusual whatsoever. And if you found out at your job, somebody else got 3.9% and you only got 2%, how would you feel about that?
Well, if it's my technicians, I'd be happy. You know what I
But
mean? Because those
again-
are my support personnel. Those are the ones that are,
But don't you
Are
work
doing
just
the
as
job every
hard
day.
in your job as somebody else?
well, it's not about that though. So you don't throw dollars and say that equates to how hard you're working. It's showing your employees that you know are in need more so that they are valued and that you want to do that. So
But
do
we're
I expect
doing-
to get the same raise as those guys? No,
We're,
it's not.
we're
We haven't done
appreciating, but we're appreciating all of our staff and trying to appreciate them all for the same percentage, whatever that percentage might be.
Right, but you can't do that though. That's where that, like I said, those results get very, very skewed. So why, I mean, how do you justify it being $30,000 and now it's almost 60,000 or 40 to 60? You know what I mean? Our average differential in salary, you're just going to keep growing that margin. And then what? You end up with a top heavy organization, which people do complain about heavily. And then you have the teacher saying, again, they see dollars on their paycheck. And then to kind of slam that home, we'll have an increase in premiums, right? So then some of their budget, some of that new bonus goes towards their insurance premiums. And then we're saying, well, with this protected class we have of administrators, all of their health insurance is free. So then their bonus never gets touched either, right? So then that stays the same. So their $5,700 is actually $5,700 where
I guess
my
I
teacher-
don't know a business that doesn't appreciate all of the employees.
it's not saying I don't appreciate them. That's the whole thing is you have to be cognizant of what they're getting paid and where that money is going, especially taxpayer dollars. And we all sit here at this table, right? And say, what? We want more teachers. We want smaller class sizes. We want more, but yet we're taking money and we're doing what? It's looking disproportionately that it's going up and we're making that gap wider. So what does that show?
We're going up the same percentage for each of our staff members. But
Which in dollars is not.
And it
That's
is,
what I'm saying.
it is more money and
Right. It's
So
always,
I agree. I mean, I'm gonna support this for other reasons, but I think, and I'm not putting words in his mouth, but we've sat up here before, Lori, and we've talked about insurance versus, and what administrative insurance is and that, and that's all piece of that pie. And so I think what Tom's saying is when you take the free health insurance and then the certified and classified staff pay for it, that's where that gap goes, is because that insurance piece has to be paid by, and part of it has to be paid by the employee. So that money doesn't necessarily go in their pocket, it's a benefit. So that 3.93% isn't the same all the way around.
Right.
And I've said this before, and this is where I do agree with Tom wholeheartedly, is benefits are benefits for every employee. They should be the same. You get more money because of the job you do.
Yeah.
And that's where you go, the higher the ladder you go. It's no different than the teachers when they get their masters, 15, masters 30, et cetera, they get more money because of that.
And they also negotiate out, I mean, we're hiring somebody administratively and they negotiate that contract. I mean, you do that
well, free
for,
health insurance has been in place for, since
but
before.
that's under discussion when we go look at changing back our insurance, or the committee is gonna take that up as well, the insurance committee. So
We haven't talked about it one time. since
well,
I've been here.
last
We've
year,
brought it up.
yes, we said that we were gonna discuss it when we review because they made an insurance change, a company change.
Mhm.
So that's on the table for discussion
Right.
with
That's a
that
lot of money.
insurance committee.
That's an extra $24,000 on average on top of this salary discrepancy. And that's where it's like, you can't. I don't know. I can't justify it to like any teacher, custodian, or anybody else that would ask me. I can't say, well, they're protected and get free health insurance because it's not because there's a shortage of administrators or we've ever had trouble recruiting an administrator, or, it's a good place to work. It's a very good salary, especially for a
And
public education job.
we want to hire the best of all employees.
Right. But we're
And we need,
limiting that on the fact that I think is the most important is the teaching aspect, is because we're creating this separation. And if you took that and reversed that right now and you said, hey, all your teachers are going to get a $5,700 average raise, and your administrators are going to get $2,400, your teachers are going to be booming, right? They're going to be like, woo, right? That's going to be, you talk about filling up, like we had 10 substitute teachers that we needed at the high school. Was it last week? So we were 10 short. Just think about if we were then all of a sudden the #1 paying district as far as substitute teachers, and then all of a sudden their pay goes up like that. Obviously, if we have the money, then that's great. But I just want to, I don't know. It's getting to me as far as just looking back at that and saying, this is not how you build a good public education system. You don't create that hierarchy and that big divide. The divide was good when I was here. So when I start, if it's $40,000, it's $40,000. That should not grow over and over and over, right? Especially when you throw like free healthcare in there. If you took that out of there and then you said, okay, their divide after that went from 40 to 50,000 or something. Okay, you can see where some of that's eaten up. But you're not. You're
I don't
kind of
know.
like piling on top.
I'm just saying, I don't know any company that gives different levels of people less of a bump. I know
Oh, yeah,
many
for sure.
companies that
There definitely is,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
we've
And ours
been doing
too.
that
I mean,
for
it's-
so many years, trying to calculate
it's like,
it.
if we're appreciating this department across the board, or similar to across the board. So I guess I don't have a problem with it. And I think they all are, I think they've all worked hard this year, and I know it's not been an easy year for any of them, so I'm all in favor of appreciating all of them.
Right. Again, it's not about not.
I
appreciating them.
understand
No,
you
but that's what you're
disagree,
saying.
Tom, I
No.
understand.
But don't say I'm not about not appreciating them. The people sitting in this room, I appreciate very much so, right? We have a very good ran school district. So I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with the optics of this and the actual application of this as far as dollars, because it is real dollars. Making it a percentage every year makes it easy to not say it's dollars. They're like, oh, everybody got 4%. Let's all give each other hugs. No, it's not, because the teachers right now are going, what is going on? We fought tooth and nail, and you know what those discussions were like, right? You know where they started, where they ended up. Right? You know about this.
I guess I'm not sure what we're talking about here.
Like when sepia was negotiating their contracts and stuff. You know where it started, you know where it ended. You know, like there was a lot of discussion, a lot of bargaining, right? So they feel like they fought very, very hard for what they got. Right?
I
And then
can
this, to me,
revert back to 2007 and 8 when the state legislature funded education. I mean, I can go all the way back to what we're dealing with and why we're dealing with it. But anyway, what we're dealing with now is a level percentage, somewhat equal percentage increase for whatever your salary, 3.9% increase. So.
Yeah, but I think what the issue is not the fact that it's not equal percentage, because it is an equal percentage, but it's not equal benefits.
not even
Right.
close.
When you put that 3.9% in for the lowest person to the highest person, what Tom's saying is those numbers aren't going to be equal because of the health benefits.
Right. And
And so.
you know what?
Yeah, but it's. So some of the things that we have to take into account for here is we do try to keep our employees within the median of what's out there, because
Right.
so Tom, when you talk about trying to recruit teachers or whatever, so I agree with you on, yeah, we could use more teachers, but we also have to look at when we hire teachers and when we hire administrators, we're not, I used to think too, when I first started, that we had a lot of administrators versus staffing, but our administrators, when I got on, we cut administrative positions. We cut everything, but administrative pieces were where we cut
Right.
too. And we never put those back.
Nope.
We're starting to bring teachers back, but we've never, and I'll say this strongly in support, we've never given
Brought back.
administration anything other than maybe a SAM. I can't think of, but the minimal, we need accounting. We need, so there's things that we need at administration.
We
So
brought
if you
back-
look at
Yeah, we brought
If you
back
look at-
marketing.
our fellow school districts around, when you look at them, they've got assistants to the assistant superintendent, they've got assistants to the director of finance, and we don't have that. And our district, we're the 15th largest district, 13th. So I guess the reason I'm supporting it, because I do agree with you, I'm not, by no means am I saying you're absolutely 100% wrong. We have to fix the system somehow, but we also have to keep people competitive, because when they bring in an administrator, they're looking at, if you go to Des Moines gets free healthcare for everybody. So you lose teachers of that. Now, why people wouldn't want to come here to the greatest school in the state, I don't know, just because it's free healthcare, but that does drive them there. So I think when you look at the meeting, I think Dirk provided that with us, is we're still in the middle of the administrative pool. And I think, correct me somebody, I think we're still in the middle for the teachers, or we're kind of nudging up there, not to the top by any means, but I think we're in the middle for everything. So we
We're
have to figure
competitive.
out, what we have to figure out is how do we keep them in the middle? And that's why I've really kind of always went with these over the last years, because that is really the driving force. Is we don't want to be at the bottom pool of getting any employees. We want the top-notch people.
Right.
So I think that what you said is valid. But we also have to look at the other end of that competition that's out there, because when you deal with Ankeny, West Des Moines, Johnston, all
Joaquin.
the other ones, they're wheeling and dealing just like everybody else, and they're looking at the best benefit packages out there. And yeah, it is kind of untraditional that we get 100% health coverage, but that's something that we just have to, we do have to really look at. How do we fix this, but yet we maintain that competitive edge, if you will. So, because I'd like to pay everybody. I'd like to be that number one spot. But unfortunately, we can't because, so, well, I'm not, trying to get you to vote for it. I mean, you vote for however you feel, but that's just why I'm voting for it.
I'd like to make a few comments. Being a career administrator, I see Tom's point. And I think we should have had discussions way before tonight, unfortunately. Maybe a workshop where the board can sit down and talk about this in length. The teachers have come a long ways and we have some fantastic ones, and we honor them by making them model teachers or instructional coaches or what have you, and they get a stipend, I think, when they do that. And all of your administrators, I shouldn't say all of them, most of your administrators were teachers at one point, and they fought the battles. You can't compare. Well, first you got to talk about teachers. You have some that when the bell rings and they can leave, they leave, they do nothing until the next day. You have a majority that take home work, that work long hours. And I wish we could do some type of merit. I know we can't, but I wish we could somehow do merit pay because they're doing so much more than, the person down the hall, maybe, so you're right. And I love the fact you brought it up, Tom, because I don't like the fact that the gap's getting bigger like you just described. And I know you've done your research, so thank you. But being a former administrator, all the nights, all the weekends, all the special meetings, all the time you spend, it's like now that we have cell phones and computers and text and social media, you can't get away from it. You're almost like 24/7. And we can't afford to lose the ones we have, and we can't afford not to be in the running for other candidates, like Brett said. So I see it every different way. You're right. It's right that we give administrators what they need to keep them. So I'm not happy with it, but it's something I think we can't solve tonight. I just wish we would maybe a month ago would have sat down as a group and had a couple hour session. But anyway, it's just I value the great teachers. It bothers me that in one school you can have people that's been in this business the same number of years, and some, especially as they're getting their retired, they really retired from teaching 5 years ago. They're just putting in time. And you got other ones that just teach nonstop, and they plan nonstop, and they plan over the weekends. They do so much. And it's just sad that all school districts have to pay everybody the same because of how many years of service. That's just bothers me. Sorry.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I should probably chime in here. Tom's had me thinking a lot about this. And I know you bring it up every year. I
It's
ran,
uncomfortable. I just want to tell you guys, it is uncomfortable.
yeah, and I ran some numbers. I tried to project forward kind of what you were looking backwards, and I agree. I think somehow we need to figure out how to not create a substantially larger gap. I think that the job of an administrator is not the same as the job of a teacher. They both have their ups and downs and pros and cons, but administrators put in a lot more contract days, and it's just a different job, and it's typically a different education level. And so there definitely should be, just like you'd say that, I don't know, CEO of a company probably should make more than the line worker, right? They bring a different value to the organization. I think we need to be competitive with our market. We need to make sure we're not like falling to the bottom, but I don't like the gap. I don't like a growing gap. I'm looking at what you saw to start with and what we might look forward to 10 years from now. So I kind of agree too with Mr. Powell over there that, it feels like we need to do a deeper dive in understanding this compensation model and what other options there are out there to make sure it's fair for everybody. We want to attract and retain the best of every different position that we can, but we also want to make sure it's a fair and that we're putting our dollars towards what provides the best outcome for our students. So, I mean, I think for tonight and to show support for our administration and everything like that, I'll go with what we have, but I do think that we need to, before we get back to this table again next year for the same discussion, I think we need to take a deeper look at it and figure out how we can not, 10 years from now, see an additional $30,000 gap between, administration and the average teacher. So that's all I have to say.
Very good.
Thanks.
Anybody else?
No, I'll have my final because I agree with Chad too. So, I mean, you guys are all making good points. It's just, there has to be years in there to where it's like, hey, their average wage increase was $2,800 and so was the teachers, right? To kind of keep that level. And then that's kind of where the negotiating comes in. It's like, hey, this is a down year. The teachers knew coming in, hey, we're in hot demand, right? Teachers are in hot demand, low supply, high demand. You want your quality teachers. So it's like, of course, they're going to ask for a little more. They're going to, right? That's normal bargaining. And then the same thing I think has to kind of happen with our administrators, where it's like, you have someone that you don't want to leave. And then that would come to the bargaining table and be like, hey, this year, you know what I mean? This is going on. This is what other districts are paying, or this is what I'm being recruited with. So I'd like you guys to kind of do this to kind of keep us, that kind of thing, right? To me, that's like the real bargaining part of it. It's kind of like that supply and demand thing, which would make more sense than just kind of slam dunking this every single year, which drives that gap up.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what I'm asking for, is just to say, hey, this would have been a great year for this to be whatever it comes out to be 1.37%. And oh, hey, that's an average 2,800, just like the teachers, right? Say we're all in this together. We went through the same stuff and we don't want that gap to grow, right? We're still getting a raise. It's the same dollars for dollars. I think the teachers would have appreciated that big time. I mean, that would have been a great kind of, hey, we're in this with you because we're taking the same dollar raise that you are. To me, I'm in it with you, right? And for me, in my job, that would be even kind of because I make more than my techs. I'm like, so for the last 5 years, it's like, hey, if you can defer my raise, give it to my technicians, right? Because it's been tough times. They need it. That's what we do. And that's, I think, part of the whole administrative part is you have to take care of your people. And that's where I feel right now that we're kind of letting that slide and just saying, hey, we're rubber stamping every single raise that they all look the same, that are not even remotely close to being the same. So it's just,
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a rubber stamp.
it's been a rubber stamp though. That's what I mean. This is
I think
a rubber stamp.
people put their thoughts into it. I don't just sit here, because I have the same views. Just because I vote for it, I don't feel it's a rubber stamp of me just saying, yeah, let's give it to them. No, because there's conversations and Dirk knows, I think Dirk's known where I felt on insurance since the day he came, and it's like, so, it's just trying to get 7 people in the same, and that's where we've struggled. We haven't been able to get 7 people or 4 out of the 7, to the table. And that's what you have to have. And so we sit here and say that we don't talk about it, but I know when I've been president, over the years, we've tried to get it to the table and the board members were like, no, because of this. And, then, so the thought process goes into it. And you've been there where, we've talked, so using rubber stamp is kind of I think that's not a fair statement to the people up here making the decision, because just because the recommendation comes, I think truly Dirk knows where we're at, but again, being competitive, staying up with, you hate to use the term, but keeping up with the Joneses. You gotta keep up with the Joneses, or we're gonna lose people, no matter what job they are. And unfortunately, from the lowest paid person to the highest paid person, yes, people want more money. And how do you get that? Is a thank you enough? Yeah, people like that dollar in their pocket. So yeah, I'm open to talking, but it's not as easy as it sounds, because any government agency has created, when you talk about wish we could pay this person more or this person, let's blame the Ford company, because that's why unions got started. Factual, that's why we negotiate, and then the state come in and tore it apart to where the teachers really can't negotiate certain things. So that puts a big factor into some of the things that have gone on the last 5 years. I think it's been 5 years since
2017.
So that we have to take in consideration too, is their bargaining power is not as strong as it used to be. So they're not negotiating much. it's kind of what, here's what you can negotiate now, where before it was pretty much open with some restrictions, but now it's like more restrictions than there is, negotiable things. So just kind of keep that in mind too. I mean,
I shared my rationale with everybody last week, and I think I've heard it here. I mean, ultimately, it boils down to I want to attract and keep the best, and that's the bottom line of where it's at. I have some disagreements with some things that have been said, and I can't not address that. Yes, there's a shortage of teachers, bus drivers, paras, nurses, you name it. Administrators are on that list, and they might even be in a more dire strait than the rest of those things. If you look around in the metro, there are a couple of districts that are doing interim superintendents, and they knew before Christmas that they had openings. There's reason for that. I'm extremely concerned, as you know, with action that you as a board just took. We're going to have an administrative opening this spring. And so I'm concerned about the pool that's going to be out there. So as I talk about that, attracting and keeping the best, it's not wordplay. It's a true thought that I have. And then the concept of us being top heavy, I just take a complete disagreement with. If you look at the 10 up and 10 down by enrollment districts, we as Southeast Polk are around 400 students per administrator. State average is 20. The closest to us in those 20 of the ups and downs is Johnston, and they're 15 lower than us. So we're not top heavy. In the last 12 years, Brett said it, we've cut 2 administrators and we've added over 100 teachers. So I think that we are putting our money where we want that to be with teachers there. And I also think there's a conversation to be had here. And Rick, I think you brought up a really good point that this feels like an executive session to talk about how do we make this the most attractive place to work for everybody. And I think that is more than we can do in probably even one night, but I think that's a conversation to be had. That's just my 2 cents.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I just want to say one more thing to Dirk and the administration and other professionals that are included in this. I mean, I think we're an efficient, fantastically run district. And I don't think, Tom, you were disputing that either.
Oh, no.
You were saying,
No, I said we have a great administrative team, so.
yeah, it's just, I think we want to make sure that we keep everything fair and like Dirk just said, we want the best of all positions. We want to attract the best and have the best for our students. So I think more discussion would be great, and scheduling at least one session, if not multiple, just to work through that and put all the options on the table, because, I think most districts probably just continue to do what they've always done, and they don't reevaluate these things very often. And I'm sure that we've been on the same path for a period of time, longer than I've been on the board. So I think it'd be good to just reevaluate that, put all our best ideas on the table and see if we can come up with an even better compensation model.
Yeah, just that sweet spot of finding like the culture where your culture meets, so their teachers are happy with it, administrators are happy, they're kind of happy with where each other's at. I mean, I'd call like a sweet spot, right? That's kind of, I guess, what we're after, is trying to find that sweet spot to where your teachers and administrators and all your other employees kind of feel like, hey, this is fair, we're a good sharing community here. And that's, I guess, where I want to try to find that middle point, or that point where it kind of makes all of our employees happy as far as that goes. So I think that probably, when you said more discussion and stuff, yeah, I know they all bargain individually, but then they could almost kind of share some of that rationale, I guess, between the groups and say, hey, this is kind of what we're thinking. So we can get feedback from all stakeholders maybe and say, hey, yeah, I think that's fair for them. This is fair for, if they think this is fair for us, that kind of thing, where we get that kind of culture wrap where everybody's happy. Because that's what, I mean, a happy, healthy culture is, a great way to encourage people to come. So culture is a big thing, especially nowadays. I think that's a thing that's growing huge too. So I just think if we have to be very cognizant, so we can kind of make sure that we have build this good culture and everybody's kind of happy with what the other one's getting too. So.
Any other comments?
Yeah, let's not forget that we're short
Yeah.
bus drivers as well as anything else.
Mhm.
Gary Haynes's crew got cut several years ago,
18 guys.
and The crew he has been unbelievable. Luckily, we had a mild winter. But as we meet, like everybody said, we need to come up with a plan of bringing some of these important people back. I'm done, Lori.
Okay, anybody else? All right, Karen,
Tom,
No,
Brett,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Whitney,
No.
Lori,
yes,
Rick,
Yes,
Bridget,
Yes.
very good. I will. Moving on to item B. The public hearing for plans and specifications for the 6-7 grade level building roadways project. Calling the public hearing to order at 6:05 PM on May 4th. I will now open the public hearing to receive comments.
Board, I'm going to have Joel Jackson with Bishop Engineering give you a slight overview of the roadway project real quick, or not during this, after this.
After the-
After this, I'm sorry.
Public hearing. Are there any public comments? Okay, you haven't received any?
I have not.
All right. The public hearing is now closed at 6:06 PM. So now you need a motion to approve the plans and specs for 6-7 building roadways project.
Motion to approve the 6-7 building roadway projects.
second,
Brett and then Rick, Karen. All right.
Joel Jackson with Bishop Engineering, who'd be administrating the contract for us, wants to give just a brief overview of the roadway project. If you have any questions regarding the specs and plans, now's the time to ask. Mr. Jackson.
Hello, welcome.
Thanks. Thanks, Kevin. Yep, as Kevin mentioned, Joel Jackson, I'm with Bishop Engineering. Appreciate you guys entrusting our firm to design a roadway and a roundabout for the district. I'm sure you never expected to be doing such a thing,
Don't
but
say roundabout.
right.
2-lane or 4-lane?
I know.
4-lane. 4-lane one direction. So as you guys all know, the school is well underway. And the second piece of the puzzle is getting access to the school. So the north-south road, Falcon Road on the west, we've been working diligently with the city over the past year to design that roadway. And then associated roundabout on Falcon and 8th Street. So as you guys have previously been aware and I believe approved is the agreement where there's a cost share between the city and the school district in regards to that. But we anticipate starting construction here in July. We're waiting for utilities to be relocated by all the utility companies, including Mid-Am and all the other associated utilities along 8th Street prior to construction starting. And we've written in that Falcon Road, the north-south road, should be completed this fall in November for substantial completion. That'll give the school access from the north from 1st or 50th Street. And then the construction of the roundabout will continue through, well, it'll stop in the winter, but it'll start back up next spring of 24. And we've written that should be completed in June of 24 for a substantial completion. We've been coordinating, the city has the adjacent road project to the west, extending from just west of Falcon to where the 4-lane currently ends. And so coordinating the time frame of those two projects. And so the traffic switches will all happen during, or they're all coordinated between the two of them. So I can answer any questions that you guys may have in regards to it.
Do you have any questions?
no, I say thank you and thank you for
Yeah.
the June date. So we have plenty of time to get it done
Yes.
before school
Yes.
opens. I appreciate that.
Yep.
Good to have a timeline.
you won't ever be
Give-
changing that date, will you?
We're giving them a little bit of leeway, but we hope that it'll be done by June, but sometimes there's things that are
We'll
out
hold
of
you
control.
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Those utility companies, get them moving.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Very much.
you.
Okay, all right, Karen,
Brett,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Whitney,
Yes.
Lori,
yes,
Rick,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Very good. Moving on to item C, the Gibson Farm lease. I need a motion, please.
Move to approve.
Chad, thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Rick. Any discussion or comments? All right, Karen?
Chad,
Yes.
Whitney,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Very good. Moving on to item D, the Webb Family Farm lease.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Chad.
Second.
Thank you, Rick. Any discussion? Karen?
Whitney,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Very good. Moving on to item E, the Patterson Family Farm lease.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Chad.
Second.
Thank you, Bridget. Any discussion? Karen?
Lori,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Whitney,
Yes.
Moving on to item F, Building and Grounds Warehouse Project Bid Award. I need a motion to award the bid.
Doesn't look like that farm rent's gonna cover this.
That's an imitation of a cricket, just in case you didn't know that.
Move to approve the bid. Do I need to read
Yeah, why don't you read the bid?
the administration's recommendation to award the bid to Estes Construction as general contractor for the buildings and grounds warehouse and bus parking lot expansion project, including the base bid and the alternate number one for a net contract value of $3,191,000.
Second.
Thank you, Rick. Any discussion?
Do we know anything about Estes Construction?
They did almost all of our double entries in our safety projects about 5 or 6 years ago. So they have worked with us
Awesome. And obviously that was a good experience and
mostly.
mostly.
What, yeah, so mostly. Well, just to clarify, what were the problems? I understand they're minor, I guess, just being me, I gotta ask.
We had some timing issues at that time on some of those things, which at that time, remember, that was kind of new, some of those safety things. And so there was it was before we talked about the issues with the supply chain, but we had supply chain issues.
So it wasn't anything to do with just lack of trying, maybe?
Yeah, I don't think so.
They tried really hard and,
I believe so.
okay,
I think all school districts were wanting it at the same time, weren't they?
Could be,
Because of some of the school shootings that were going on. I think that if I remember back, I did a lot of reading on it, that it was just everybody was wanting the same thing at the same time.
yeah, and I think
Yeah.
overall the quality was
Yeah.
good. There was a few, I think, just from what I remember, the bullet resistant film looked like they had put Play-Doh and putty around there, around the edges, but I found out that was kind of part of it, but it just looked like.
Yeah.
So long as those things come in the original form, I probably won't be as tacky, I guess. But Gary, you like this company though overall?
Yes, I think the company working with RDG and myself, I feel very confident that the results would be good at the end. And I think it would go very smooth throughout. It's a different type of project than we had before, and you're right, everybody was doing it at that time. What we had issues with at that time was responded to and corrected, so we got what we wanted.
Any other questions, comments?
No, other than that these questions have to be asked now because of the last one, so we trust you.
Well, thank you.
All right, Karen.
Lori,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Whitney,
Yes.
Very good. Okay, we need to, item G, set the public hearing date for fiscal year 2023 budget amendment. Can I get a motion for public hearing for May 18th, please?
I'll move that we set the public hearing for the fiscal year 2023 budget amendment for May 18th. Second, 2023.
Thank you, Whitney, with a second. Bridget made the first motion. Any comments or discussion? Karen?
Rick,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Whitney,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes. All right, moving on to item H, elementary math instructional material.
Move to approve the recommendation of iReady Mathematics for use at the K through 5 level.
Second.
Thank you, Chad and Brett.
Can we discuss something?
Yeah.
I would just like to say, I really dug into this. And I'm thrilled that we're getting it. I'm glad, I hope it gets approved here. Because I look at the numbers of all 8 of our elementary schools, and as you guys all know, math's one of the core subjects, and this is a great program. And I'm just thankful I still have grandsons in elementary school that will be part of this. It's just money well spent. We talk about quality instruction. This is it to the T. I mean, if more you look at it, and if you Google it, and if you talk to people, I've said enough. I just really am glad we're doing it.
Thank you, Rick. Anybody else? Karen?
Bridget,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Whitney,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Moving on to item I, the Food and Nutrition Dairy Award. I need a motion.
Motion to approve.
You go.
I like dairy.
Thank you, Brett, for the motion. Who seconded?
Second.
Thank you, Chad. Any discussion? All right, Karen.
Tom,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Whitney,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
It's just gonna be like the farm thing.
This is the coveted Food and Nutrition Bread Award we look to every year. I need a motion on item J, please.
Actually, this is a different one, right? Yeah,
Yes.
this isn't.
No, that's sadly, no, that's correct, but I still look forward to the bread award every year.
Pan of gold.
Move to approve Panagold as the bread supplier.
Thank you, Chad.
Second.
Thank you, Rick. Any discussion?
Well, just to clarify, so it's not, is there 2 bread awards? So this is the one that we usually talk about.
Yeah,
That's what I misunderstood.
that's why I
thought you
said
it was-
coveted. The
I thought
coveted
you said it was a different, that one wasn't up for bid, so that's what, okay. So I
Karen,
just vote no, just because of that.
Brett,
You're up first.
Yeah.
Chad,
Yes.
Whitney,
Yes.
Lori,
yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Moving on to item K, the Food and Nutrition Prime Vendor Award.
Move to approve the administration's recommendation.
Second.
Thank you, Chad, Bridget. Any discussion? Karen?
Chad,
Yes.
Whitney,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
All right, moving on to item L, the Food and Nutrition Preventative Maintenance.
Motion to approve the 1-year extension of Commercial Service Innovations Incorporated for preventative maintenance.
Thank you, Whitney. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Rick. Any discussion? Karen?
Whitney,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
All right, moving on to item M, first read of the 300 policies. I need a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Tom. Okay.
Second.
Thank you, Whitney. Discussion.
Yeah, discussion. I'm on the policy committee with Tom and Whitney, and several of the cabinet members. Thank you. It's just, in my opinion, and I'm only one of 7 here, so, on policy, and I don't know how, if you've had time to look at what we looked at a week or 2 ago. I really like the 307 Administrative Code of Ethics. I mean, when I read that, I had to read it a few times, and that is just something we should be printing and putting on the back of ID cards and on walls. It's just a great code of ethics. So when you have time, just if you haven't seen it, look at it. And then 50209, of course, smoking, drinking, and drugs. I think as just one board member, we've had so many closed sessions, and it's starting to get, I don't know, stressful. And right now, according to what our administrators tell us, the most they can do is have a 10-day suspension. And I think not at this meeting, but at some point, this is the first reading, at some point, should we have, or especially our high school and second and junior high, maybe even 6th grade, maybe have something between 10-day and when they come to the board, because they're seeming to come to the board so quickly. And maybe the rest of you are okay with all these closed sessions. I know it's part of our job, but I know we have a substance-free workplace, so I don't want administrators to back off. I just think we're getting to the board too quickly. So that's my opinion. When we looked at the weapons policy, I forget what number it is.
502.08.
Yeah, of course, there's no leeway there. If anybody brings, we have no tolerance for weapons, of course. And so if anything, that could be even stricter. But the one thing, I don't know if you other 6 have thought about it, but, and I know we can't say a lot in meetings here, but when you look at when we suspend, how long we suspend somebody from the fall that does something, and then now in May, is it really fair? It's kind of like the gap is just, it's kind of like Tom's pay for administrators and teachers. I mean, the gap's just so, we've had closed sessions in September and November, and you guys know what they get. Then we've had some in May, you know what they get. So I don't know.
Yeah.
The ones in the fall almost seem like an expulsion because of the length. Right? What were you gonna say, Brett?
No, I was just gonna say, well, I don't think you want to put that a specific consequence in the policy, because each one has to be looked at individually, but
Right.
but I get what you're saying. I think if we've had those discussions on those, but it's always tough to start the suspension at the beginning of the year, and I think that's why
Mhm.
some of the hearings that we've had have done that, because kids make mistakes, as we've talked about, and so you have to really define it. So I don't know. I think that's where you're going with maybe
Yeah.
putting it in the policy, but I don't think we
Can.
need to lock something in, because there may be other circumstances that we've seen at the board where
Right.
sometimes we say, oh man, that, whether it tugs at your heartstrings or whether it's just, just different pieces about that individual. Obviously we can't tolerate drugs.
Yeah.
Or weapons at all. But I think we still have to look at the individual circumstances so we can discuss it, but
And since it's becoming more and more frequent, I just wonder, is our curriculum in our schools working? It seems like we should have some type of message, and I'm sure they're trying hard. There's only so many minutes in a day. But these kids aren't getting the point when they come to us, they're, what the consequences are, because they just keep repeating the same thing.
well, I think one of the things that's gonna help, because I was the one that asked for this one to come
Mhm.
early. I don't think this was on the
Right.
plan to go to the board, but after a few of those board meetings, it's like we had to change some of that language. So I think some of the language has been changed. So I do appreciate you guys for really digging into that one, because I think just the fact, like simulated NTOX, what the other changes was contraband lookalikes.
And we also added storing of
Yeah.
paraphernalia and
So I
stuff like
think
that.
that stuff's gonna really,
Yeah.
and not that we have a major problem here. Every school has the problem of kids smoking, trying to sneak, the clear liquid. It turns out to be vodka and those type of things, but I think the 10 days is probably leave that in the administrative hands, because otherwise again, not saying that we have a problem. I don't want people listening to think that we'd be meeting more often. But I think the message that I'm hearing is obviously we need to be strong in our message from the start. If there's those 1 to 9 days, that we're not going to tolerate weapons, we're not going to tolerate drugs. So.
And if you come before us, it's not going to be good. Any other comments?
Thanks for working on this.
Karen?
Lori,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Bridget,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Brett,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Whitney,
Yes.
All right, moving on to section 3, topics for discussion. You're up.
Southeast Polk joins school systems throughout the state to salute our local school board members and celebrate public education during Iowa's annual School Board Recognition Month in May. Iowa school board members are chosen by their communities through election. Our specific board members oversee an overall annual budget of around $175 million, almost 7,500 students, over 1,000 employees, 15 buildings, and soon to be more. They're responsible for formulating school policy, as we just discussed, approving curricula, as has happened tonight, maintaining school facilities, and adhering to state and federal education law as they remain focused on their ultimate commitment to student achievement, developing Iowa's future together in partnership with the school community, families, and citizens. Tonight, we recognize the dedication and hard work of these people. They devote countless hours to providing our community's children with a sound education, the most important investment we can make. Please join me in saying thanks to our school board members and recognizing their commitment to our school. And that definitely includes our student school board.
Yay, Lily.
Hey, Lily.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And you can tell by Jeannie's presence what's
Just
going
gonna
to
take a
happen next.
picture.
You want to sit where you're at?
What do you want? What do you prefer? Okay. Make it easier on her. In one group. Oh, gosh.
Oh, like middle.
Why we're here, Lily.
It's always, that happens.
Misspoke again. Just kidding.
That'd be terrible. All right. Food and nutrition. Oh, I can put my glasses in.
We're good. Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
I am here just to provide you guys with a quick update on food and nutrition and go through some stuff that we had happen this year and then about some exciting stuff that we have going on this summer. Okay, so just to kind of look at where we are this year compared to last year. So I put some numbers up there to show you where we are with how many breakfasts we serve versus last year and how many lunches we served. It's a significant difference, as you can see. Remember last year we had free meals for all students. So that is why we're seeing such a big difference there. Also, our free and reduced percentage did go up this year, so we're at 37.05%. And 2 of our buildings actually went over the hump of 50% free and reduced. So Altoona and Willowbrook. And with that brings things that we are able to do to help our students and our families, which I'll talk about in just a little bit. And then I'll also share about a grant that we received here too. But first, before we get to that, this year we were up for our USDA administrative review. And so we had that review back in January. This happens every 3 years, except for we were supposed to have it 2 years ago and then last year and then this year. It got pushed back. COVID messed up a bunch of those things. So it's supposed to be every 3 years. So we should have one again in 3 years. But when they come, they pick typically 3 buildings to look at. And this year they went and observed meals at Clay, Willowbrook, and Mitchellville. And so they just pick them at random. The previous time, I think we had Spring Creek, the junior high, and one of the elementaries. So a few findings that were found, really nothing all that crazy or bad, just required a little extra retraining and reminding of some of the procedures that we have. Findings were related to a non-food service staff member took an item without proper documentation. So that was just reminding other building staff that they're not able to do that. Just reminding staff that we do have to have a medium of exchange. So what that means is when a student comes through the line, they have to either give a ticket, say a name, put a number in. There has to be a medium of exchange, just like if you were to go to the grocery store or a fast food restaurant. And they weren't seeing that in one of our buildings as well as they would like. Also, another finding was just service of some of our fruits and vegetables, not quite hitting as much as was supposed to be served. And then some with offer versus serve. We follow offer versus serve, which means we offer all these items and kids have to pick a certain number. And so actually, instead of not offering enough, we actually had one of the buildings was observed where they were not allowing a student to decline it. They were putting more on than they needed to. So just what came from that is that I ended up going through and doing retraining with all of our buildings and just reminders of all of that. So really nothing, just minimal things. Lots of good stuff came from it, but we did do some training and some of those corrective actions and everything after that was taken care of. Then I put on that first or third slide, but the tray slide, it talked about the farm to school grant. We did get a farm to school grant. So we actually received $8,000, $4,000 for protein foods and $4,000 for produce. So we used that $4,000, but it costs a little more than that, but we used that to make burnt ends at the junior high and the high school. I put a lot of information out about it. It was a multi-day process. They were amazing. The kids loved them. We had great feedback for it. And we've added it to the rotation to have it on a little bit more. So we did the burnt ends. We also, for the produce, brought in some local cranberries and did a cranberry strawberry mix, as well as have done some stuff with some root vegetables. And then not part of that grant, but farm to schools, we did participate in the Great Apple Crunch. So that was back in October and had local apples in and supplied them. And every school had that and everyone crunched an apple across the Midwest and potentially the country. So just kind of something fun to do. But we did that farm to school and looking at ways we can do that. We actually got a small little $300 one for the summer to do a little bit more local as well. Up next, and this was one, I know the fees went to the board already, but we did not have the information from the USDA and the Department of Education on what the adult meal price is. This is a meal price that we actually don't get to set. It is preset for us. So the new adult meal price for next school year will be $4.85. And I put the information up there on how they get to it. It's based on the free student reimbursement plus the performance-based reimbursement and then the USDA food meal rate. And so it actually comes to $4.84, and that's kind of a weird number. So we rounded it to $4.85. But that will be the adult meal price, and it's something we do have to follow.
Does that still have to come to us as part of the fees? So this one does, okay. Because
Yes.
it was on the sheet.
We just didn't have it.
Yeah.
Okay,
That
that's why I wondered
information.
why it would be on there if we didn't have to approve it. So, because didn't we approve what was already on that sheet?
Yes, we keep saying that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sometimes they get it to us sooner, sometimes they don't. And this year it took a little bit longer, but that is what the meal price has to be. So then one of the exciting things that we have coming up this summer is that we have the opportunity to do 2 free and open sites for summer meals. So when I told you that the having buildings with 50% free and reduced benefits, this is one of the benefits that we have is once you have buildings that are over that level, you can have open and free sites. Before that, we would have had to have closed enrolled ones. So we wouldn't be able to provide meals to everyone. But now we can provide meals out of Altoona Elementary and Willowbrook to any student or any child. It doesn't even just have to be a student. So someone could bring their cousin with. It's for anyone ages 1 through 18. So we will be doing that from June 5th to August 11th at both of those buildings. We'll have breakfast and lunch. We're also pairing with the Kids Cafe so that they will be doing their program now at Willowbrook, and then we will be providing them the meals. So, and we were able to pair with Willowbrook's summer school program too. So just looking at different ways that we can help others, but this is pretty exciting for us to be able to offer this. It is not like our grab and go meals. So they don't get to just come and pick up a meal based on the USDA. We're back to actually coming and sitting and consuming the meal. So we'll have those open times. I'm working with Caring Hands and some other places to look at potentially pairing with some of the programming they're doing too, to help hopefully bring kids in, have something to do, and also get some food as well. So those are pretty exciting.
I think very exciting, especially that Willowbrook doing Kids Club. That's great. And I know the answer you just already gave us is because they have 50% free and reduced lunch, but it's those 2 schools are pretty close together and they're a long ways from Runnels and 4 Mile. And they have some kids that could use that too, whether they get transportation to and from those schools, I don't know, but I understand it's based on, like you already said, but.
Yeah, right now, those are the only 2 buildings we have and that are fairly close to that. The nice thing with working with the Kids Cafe is they do transport kids there too. So for the 6 weeks that is going on, they'll be bringing kids into Willowbrook as well. The nice thing of these 2 buildings is the walkability too, compared to some of ours, is that many of the students can walk up if like they're home and with siblings or a parent's not there. So they are close together. Yes, it was what we have to work with, and we'll see where it grows from there. But it's a really nice thing that we can do for our community. And I'm excited to see how it goes.
So, okay, this may seem like a silly question. Probably all the questions I ask are silly. So if anybody can go here and eat, is it because of the sitting down piece that's what regulates the whole? Because it seems like we're just going to give out free meals. Why can't we take meals to Mitchellville or Runnels or Delaware?
I believe some of the thought process behind that from the USDA is that then the meals are going to the kids. We can verify that the meal is going to the kids, they're consuming it, and it's not going home and then an adult eating it. The goal is to feed the child. But
What if I can bring my cousin or my, that's not even going to school there?
Yep. Summer meals are very different than school meals. It is not based on like the school or the boundaries. So you could even go down to Des Moines and have a school meal or have a summer meal there too.
Well,
It's really open to.
That's my point is.
Sure.
So if I grab all my friends, I grab all my school board friends.
They're 18 or younger.
I go. Make believe, Lori.
Okay.
So I grab my friends, we ride our bikes down there.
Okay, good job.
Or we walk. And I just go in there. I'm the only one that goes to Altoona or Willowbrook. But they go to whatever schools. They probably go to Bondurant or something, you know, like that. But then they get free meals. And that doesn't make sense to me that
Not
anybody
everything
can go,
does.
which is great.
And some of that is the USDA's rules and regulations around it. And it's hitting those populations that they see are potentially highest need with that free and reduced. Willowbrook, not only, they were actually eligible before we even knew what our free and reduced was because they hit in a census block. So the USDA uses census blocks looking at overall population, but then also the free and reduced data. I can't answer all of it as to the whys they decide those laws and those.
Say that because it's like, The government makes no sense. So I got a thing that here's what I'm going with. So what would stop some of these Polk School District to run buses out to these locations and bring them to Altoona Elementary?
Probably funding. It's
Oh, no,
probably
no, no, no.
part of it.
No, because I can load my friends up in my car and take them. You want to chime in there?
No, he was just.
Again, their goal is to hit those high poverty needs areas, and that's kind of
But you get
where
where
these
I'm
are.
going, that's
I
It
understand
makes
what
no
you're
sense.
trying to say too.
I want to rebuke what you're saying
Hmm.
because yes, that's possible. I don't think people are going to be driving around picking up all their friends to drive to Willowbrook to get that free
No,
meal.
and I get that, but I'm just saying is we're opening up two free and reduced schools for those group of kids.
Mm.
That those two schools because they're over 50%.
It's for any kids though, anyone. So
can
if
go
a
to that
parent
school.
from
It's based on
Mitchellville
the
is in town
community
shopping, they could
area.
stop by and grab a
That's what
meal
I'm
too.
So
Yeah.
that area, you're saying it's not geographical bound, but it is, but it isn't, but it is.
So
but it isn't.
what is what you're saying is determined by the geography and by the makeup of the kids in that school.
Yes,
But any child who falls in between 1 and 18 can be serviced.
yes,
At that school.
that is exactly
I'll let it go.
correct.
Right.
I'll let it go, but
But-
Four lanes, Brett.
I agree with what Brett's saying, though. It would be really nice if we could make sure that we're servicing the kids in that community who actually qualified and need it, as opposed to some other kids who just, their mom went shopping and they decided to stop by.
Sure. I don't disagree. And thankfully we've paired with Kids Cafe. So at least for part of it, we can get it. And maybe it's something we can look at in the future. This is our first year. We're not quite sure how everything will go, how many will come, because when we are doing school meals, we actually know that we have this many kids at the school. We're going to serve this many. Right now, I have no idea how many are going to show up at Altoona because I don't have anything there right now. At least with Willowbrook, I know we'll have 140 to 160 somewhere in there with Kids Cafe. So a lot of it too is hopefully the program will sustain and go and we'll have people show up too. So it's
So how do we
yeah.
advertise it? Though? Do we advertise it?
so information will be going up.
Altoona
It's going
Willowbrook.
out. Yep, information was sent to principals to get it to parents. I dropped some stuff off at Caring Hands. I've sent some stuff to the city council, to the chamber. So we're getting the message out,
on social
out
media.
now. Yeah,
As of last week, I think.
Okay, I'm gonna let it go, but we're sending the message out to everybody.
Mhm. Yep.
That's my point.
yep.
So what
But
would
it has to
stop
be
us?
served out of those two
I
buildings.
know, so what would stop us from getting buses and taking them to that school? And that's a serious question. And I kind of like an answer, not right now, I'm not like,
Okay.
give me an answer now, but I'm like, would be nice to get an answer to that, is like, what would prevent us from
Sure. It's something we could look at.
transporting kids there, because
Gary's walking up here.
Yeah, nothing would
And I
prevent it.
think that I'm assuming that the
I
budget
knew
for
Kevin.
this is just for this from the
Yes,
government.
the
and
funds
it
are
would
not to
cover
transport.
Beyond
Yep.
that, if we wanted to provide transportation, then it would be our own.
Our dime.
Yes.
Thank you.
but if
You're
we-
welcome.
But if we pay for the transportation,
Yeah, we could, right.
Yes.
yeah,
Saying,
that's what I'm saying.
would you like to look into how much that would cost?
Okay, you guys are missing the point here probably,
So
because
Brett, nothing is
aren't we
gonna
about
stop
taking
that.
care of our,
Yeah.
all students? Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there, but it's, okay, I'm letting it go. I'm letting it go.
No, do you want
Sit
to
down,
look
Kevin.
into it?
Well, and I
Just give
definitely think it might be
people a
something we can chat about. We just need to figure out how the first year even goes and see the logistics of it and see if what we're doing works
Yeah,
and
but what if next
Doesn't
year they go under the 50%? And then we don't have.
so that the nice thing is that we are guaranteed 5 years.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah. So once you're eligible, you're
I don't mean to
guaranteed
make
5
this
years.
difficult, but it's just, it's like,
Yeah.
you can't, if there's no
There's good things.
boundaries, if there's no boundaries.
Why don't you put some numbers, Kevin, for Brett and all of us?
Transportation
Yeah.
costs?
For the
Well,
whole summer for breakfast and lunch.
we would have to get some engagement, right? Like people, like when we put it out to
Yeah, I'd
everybody
like
and
to
say,
know
hey,
Who's
Who's
interested?
Yeah.
I mean,
we do that and just say, hey, I had 40 families at Mitchellville and I had, you know what I mean? So to see
Yeah.
if that would be feasible then to say, hey, maybe we should offer transportation. You know
Yep.
what you're saying?
Yeah,
That's probably not a bad idea.
probably a long way for me to get to it, but you know how I am. It takes me a day.
All right.
I see what you're saying. Good.
Keep going?
Yep.
I'm sorry.
This is the most exciting thing that's come out of food and nutrition. in a long time.
Exciting.
That's right. I don't.
Exciting.
Always exciting.
It's always exciting.
Well, since it's been,
Sorry.
yeah.
Go right ahead.
And then to bring up other exciting stuff is upcoming legislation. I'm not as excited about some of these things, but we're just going to wait and see what happens. So right now there is potential. Last year when I came, I think I talked about different stair steps, and now they're proposing, and it's out for comment, about additional regulations, which will potentially change. These are the big things. There's a few others, but added sugars to different items related. They would have specific items, as well as then overall for your breakfast and your lunch. Milk, they're looking at still allowing some flavored. Potentially it would be just certain grades, or reducing the sugar content in it. Yes, there's different things out there. Sodium, they're also looking to reduce the sodium in stair step. I believe in the information, there's some different documents that you can see that give that information too. So things would be changed in stair steps, I believe, by 2029. And then one of the others is looking at whole grains and having mainly whole grains. We mainly serve whole grains anyway right now. But those are some of the changes that we're waiting to hear what the final rule is on, and then we'll figure out how to make it work. And then one of the other things that is actually a little bit more exciting is the community eligibility provision. So right now, that is how like Des Moines serves free meals for all students. So the government is actually looking at decreasing what the threshold is to qualify. So right now you have to have 40% of your identified student population for that building to be able to even qualify to look at the potential of having free meals. They're looking at decreasing that to 25%, which that sounds wonderful, but that only makes you eligible. It does not add the funding to actually make it work. So then just recently, there was information that came about that there is another potential, well, it kind of ended up getting paired together. There's talk of increasing that multiplier. Right now, the multiplier is at 1.6. They're looking at potentially increasing it to 2.5. And then that would be a little bit more interesting in running some numbers and looking at. So there's potential for that. Looking at what we have and where we are, it probably wouldn't hit all of our buildings, but there would be conversations we would be able to have if that multiplier went up. And that's really where the key is. The lowering to the 25% isn't as big as making sure that we can actually cover the cost of having that. Because with CEP is typically use your identified student population, you multiply it by the multiplier, and that's how many kids are paid at the free rate. And then you absorb the cost of those others that don't meet that at the paid cost. And so, but you still provide all meals. So if they were to keep that multiplier at where it is, we wouldn't really be able to sustain the amount of kids we would have that would be at that paid rate. But going up to the 2.5, there would be potential. So it's kind of a wait and see. I haven't seen any additional movement on this. I have the alert set, so it emails me because I'm pretty excited to see what happens with it, but I haven't seen anything new. But there's potential. So we'll have, it's kind of a wait and see for both of these of what is happening and what's to come for our program.
And no potential timeline of when they might consider that.
I don't know
Okay.
exactly. It didn't show much. But again, I set the alert because that was the best way for me to figure out. I
Right.
didn't see when they were going to take it back and talk a little bit more about it.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, and I should actually, let me back up. So I don't know when they're going to talk about it, but from some different articles I've seen, it said that they thought they might have it in play by July 1st, but that would be a really fast thing right now for them to have all of that. So I'm not sure how accurate that is, but I read it in one article that it did say that. Otherwise, I just like to add some pictures. We have a lot of fun in our kitchens. We have fun with our kids. Again, you are welcome to stop in and meet the staff. Thank you for those who did stop in during the board visit. Feel free at any of those to stop in, see our wonderful staff. We have really amazing people in the kitchens that work really, really hard. And we have a lot of fun too. So stop in, see them. I know they appreciated those of you that stopped in at Altoona. Thank you for doing that. That was really appreciated. Other than that, that's all I got. If you have some questions, I can try to answer them.
Anybody? Thank you.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, it's hard on you.
All right. Joellen Latham.
You need the mouse. What if I don't like that? You click on some things. Thank you. And just to stir up the conversation a little bit more, from that conversation, the decision for the USDA on the buildings that qualify for free lunch sites is much like Title I. So when we've talked about Title I, the intent of Title I is to level the playing field. Equal and equity aren't necessarily the same thing. So we need to level the playing field for the areas that have more poverty and more challenges in them. So that's why the USDA picks those schools. And again, the goal is to feed as many children as we possibly can. So we're really looking at equity rather than equality when we look at the free lunch sites. And it's very much based on the Title I proposal that we have, where some schools get additional staff because of the additional challenges. Another thing I would point out there is that Willowbrook has summer school. So having their breakfast and their lunches embedded right into the schedule. So they'll be able to capitalize on that as well. Okay. It's because we want to have more discussion on that. So I thought I would add that. So as we are in May and we are winding up the school year, winding down the school year, we're getting ready for the summer work that happens, bringing back our hashtag what teachers do in the summer. I always appreciated that in my 20 years of classroom teaching. You know, what do you teachers do in the summer? Well, we do a lot. So as we wind down the school year, we have identified some days at the end of the school year to support school improvement work and curriculum work. So on May 30th, we will be doing school improvement work with our teams. We will have summative data. We're hoping we'll get most of our summative data in at that time, so we can start to look at trend growth and some cohort growth as well. It gives us an opportunity to reflect. And we always first want to identify those celebrations because there's always celebrations. And then where do we see opportunities for growth? And so we will carve out that time on May 30th to begin our school improvement plan and our next steps in our, it's continuous, it never ends. As we get to the end of one cycle, we reflect and set goals for the following year. Our district goals were early literacy, the academic core, college and career readiness, and climate and culture. So as we reflect and move forward, we'll be bringing you some of that summative data on the district goals and get your feedback on setting new goals as we look at the 23-24 school year. Then we'll follow up that day with a curriculum day dedicated to curriculum work. This is a jump start on much of the work that happens during the summer. And during that time, we'll review student data so we can look at different units of study. Which standards are we doing really well in? Which standards do we need to maybe adjust our teaching so that we get more students who are proficient in those standards? And we have a form where teachers can submit their feedback all year. So then we have a lead team who reviews that feedback and makes revisions. Each year we have focus areas. All areas work on curriculum, but we have certain areas that are focus areas. In elementary, the teachers teach all 4 areas. So we have a focus area each year to make sure we get that filled first, and then we work on the other subject areas. So our focus area last year was social studies, and our focus area in elementary this year is science. All 4 core areas will be working, but this will be the area that we'll focus on. We're also putting special emphasis on the transition grade levels. So looking at curriculum adjustments, curriculum merging as we look at grades 6 and 7, grades 8 and 9, and grades 10 through 12 as we plan for the building reconfiguration. We have focused on that during our secondary collaboration times this year, and we've gotten a good start. But this day will allow us to put some concrete actions towards that as we move ahead. Professional learning for the first time since pre-COVID. So 2019 was the last time we went. We were identified as a model PLC district in 2020. And this is the first time we've been able to return. And so currently we have over 80 staff members who will be attending the PLC Institute in Minneapolis, June 26th through 28th. So we're excited to re-engage in that work and continue our commitment to collaborative
work among our teams.
That's fantastic.
Isn't it
Yeah.
though? That's very exciting and people are very excited to get back there.
Did we have him come though and do a small lecture though?
Yeah,
Between-
we had them come in this year and work with our tier one instruction.
thought.
Yep, that's accurate. So there's also conferences that we can attend in the summer. Most conferences have shifted to summer because they can get more teachers in attendance during that time. So we support teachers in attending conferences with registration and et cetera costs. So there is a fine arts conference in June that we're sending a number of teachers to. There's an Iowa Reading Conference in Ames in June, and it includes reading and teacher librarians. And we have several people going, and we have some teacher librarians who are presenters at that conference. So that will be exciting. If you remember, we went to Connecting the Dots last year, and that was all about the academic side of the school improvement plan. This year there was Connecting Dots, and it is about wellness. Both teacher wellness and student wellness. And so we don't have as many going as we had last year because of the PLC Institute, but we do have several teams attending, and our at-risk coordinator will be attending as well to bring any ideas back in regards to that. We have 3 sections of youth mental health first aid, and they are all full. So we're very excited about that. As you remember, we wrote a grant to be able to support that. And we had 2 sessions last year, and we have 3 this summer. And so we have teachers who will be attending that, and we'll continue to build our capacity of teachers who are certified with youth mental health first aid.
Will that wellness conference cover mental health for both
Yes.
staff and students?
The youth mental health first aid is a very structured certification program. So it's got some strict guidelines. And so they can only have 30 teachers in a cohort. So we'll get 90 teachers through this year. But the Connecting the Dots will address both student mental health and teacher mental health.
We don't have that many going to that one, do we?
Oh, I think we have. We don't have, no, but we probably have between 30 and 40.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good one. All right.
Yeah. Not 90, but a pretty good number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we have a lead team who will be attending the Mastery Connect conference. Again, we intended to go to this a few years back. It got canceled due to COVID, but Mastery Connect is a system that we use that works with Canvas and Infinite Campus. And we are really working with that to, as we've moved towards standards-based grading, there's not one system that does it all, but we're really trying to find a structure that reduces the amount of time that teachers have to enter information. And so Mastery Connect, we believe we currently have it, and we believe is launching some new tools that would help make standards-based learning more seamless as we move to that structure. So we are taking a lead team to that. To bring back information to improve our system for supporting standards-based learning and standards-based grading. So those are the conferences that we're attending. And then summer is also the time, although teachers take courses all during the year, we have advanced coursework that is available during the summer. So some teachers work on advanced degrees during the summer, some add special endorsements. Some just need to renew their credits. So we all, every 5 years, have to renew our licenses. And so we take additional credits to be able to do that, teachers and administrators alike. We also have Southeast Polk University. And so we're not only including classes in there, but teacher teams are writing proposals so they can also teach classes in Southeast Polk University that are more specific to their content area. And then Jim Pfeiffer always rounds up an environmental learning course out at the Environmental Learning Center each year, and he has a full cohort for that. We are starting something new this year where we're offering teacher externships, where teachers will spend time out in businesses and really notice what kids need to be successful in that business, and then come back to their team to look at their curriculum and what can we add to our curriculum to help students be successful out in that business. So we're starting that during the summer, where we'll immerse teachers in businesses, and they'll be able to come back and identify the skill sets that that students need. And then, of course, learner curiosity. That's the time to pursue courses that are of interest to teachers, and they can dig in a little bit more than maybe they could during the school year. So a lot of coursework that goes on during the summer. As you were talking about the meal sites, I forgot to say which schools are having summer school, and I'm going to get them wrong, but Spring Creek Junior High, High School, Runnels, Willowbrook, Centennial, and Delaware will be hosting summer schools this year so that students may attend and get that extra boost that they need.
And is that open to all students or specific students?
It is first open to those in the boundary school, but there have been times that we've taken others in if they need additional help. Also, there is extended school year for special education. So students who have IEPs that indicate that they need additional help during the summer, that will happen at Spring Creek. It's either I think it's Spring Creek. So
How long is summer school running for?
it usually runs for 3 weeks.
Okay, and is that, those are more schools than we had last year, right?
I believe it's about the same. I think we have one more elementary than we had last year. Yep. Yes. So what do teachers do in the summer? Well, we hope they rest, relax, refresh, re-energize for the following school year, but they also work very hard to improve their craft and support students all throughout the year. So as we close for tonight, I would like to mention, I've seen some of you there already. Oh, they're going to make me sign in and I don't know my username and login. We have Jeannie Christensen helped us set up a Southeast Polk Teaching and Learning Facebook page. And so we are posting updates that are related to teaching and learning. So I've seen some of you on there and following that, but if you are on Facebook, I invite you to follow and just catch some of the things that are going on. Dirk will probably mention this, but we had 17 students earn the seal of biliteracy this week. It's a record. And one of our students earned it in both Spanish and French. So yeah, so very exciting. So exciting things on there. And I encourage you to follow if that's the social media that you like to be on. So.
And I like to share it so my friends in other school districts can see what we're doing at Southeast Polk. I think it's good marketing.
It
as
is.
well.
Yeah, it is. So very much so. Any questions about the summer? Be here before we know it.
It's coming up fast. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next, the IASB conference reports. So would you and Mr. Crab like to share what you learned or experienced? I think you had some good experiences.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, I took a lot of notes. Let me just kind of read through them. Where you got, I'm just kidding. It was a really,
I was welcoming you to do so.
it was a good conference, a summit for student success. It was a little bit smaller quite a bit smaller than like the big IASB conference. I mean, it was like a Thursday and Friday, so it's kind of an awkward time for a lot of people, I think, to be able to go. But I think it was really well done. I guess the big things we talked about were like an opportunity gap. And I think some of the discussion today about the Title I and the free meals and summer school and things like that. I mean, I think those are things we're doing in our district. Just a few examples of things we're doing to try to close that opportunity gap, because that's what really leads to the achievement gap. And they kind of talked about, I mean, those are sometimes you have students that just need to work a little bit harder, but a lot of times there are other factors outside of just, pulling up the bootstraps and
Hurdles, lots of hurdles.
Lots of hurdles. So there was a lot of discussion on that. Probably the most impactful thing I thought was we did a poverty simulation. And I've done a few of those before where it's kind of a worksheet. You talk about, oh, we're week 1 and we got to fix our car or whatever. And it's interesting, but this one, I can't remember who put it on. Was it somebody from Alabama or Georgia?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a different school board association brought this to there, and it was kind of like playing Game of Life. There was like actual money, well, not actual money, but like paper money, and different consequences and stuff. And the whole room was set up to where like you had to go over to try to get a job. And then like if you were a kid in the scenario, you had to go to school. And sometimes at school, you did something you weren't supposed to, and you were handed a consequence. Like I had to go to juvenile detention my first day of school, but they give you these scenarios from different kids and adults in different backgrounds, and you really start to feel after, you know, a few minutes of this, you know, well, it's kind of a 4-week deal, but each week was like
12 minutes.
12 minutes. So every time you get through a week, things seem to get more dire and more dire. Pretty soon you're just sitting there and you're like, there's no way to like, there's no solution to this that you can come up with as that individual. And so you really start to feel maybe a little bit more of what some of our students or families deal with, where there's just not enough money. There's all these barriers in the way. So I thought that was really eye-opening. And then also we did, there's a group called Big Picture Learning. I think they're different. There's schools throughout the country that, I don't know if it's considered a program or what, but they're big picture schools, and they have a little bit different philosophy on how they do things. It's really focused on individual learning and real world experience. And so we got to hear from a couple students that they brought in, and then also we zoomed in with a student. It was me and 2 other board members that zoomed into the student like in Rhode Island, and they kind of described their experience where, you know, he goes to this big picture school, and part of his curriculum is a big part is a project. And so you got to do this project with the Rhode Island Institute of Art, I think it was, where they had to design more of like an interactive activity for kids when they come in to look at the museum and stuff like that. So he got to really use some of those skills. And now he's working with a nonprofit social media group to help nonprofits with social media. This is his current project. But they kind of described like his day was, he goes to school 1 day a week, 2 days he's doing college courses, and then the other 2 days he works on the project. So it's like a different philosophy, but I think all of those ideas and connections you have help you to kind of step back and look at the bigger picture of what we're trying to do and why we're here. It just kind of energizes you to jump back in and, you know, challenge assumptions. And I know we do a ton of great things here, and but there's always new things and new ideas to try. So
Very good. Anything you'd like to add?
I would echo what Chad said about the poverty simulation. That was probably the most impactful experience of that day and a half. It really made you appreciate the struggle that a lot of families face in the limited amount of time that they have to meet those needs. And one of the things that happened with a couple of other families or participants is that they found that education sometimes fell to the bottom priority because they were just trying to meet basic needs. So if we can help fulfill those basic needs, then that allows the students to get to, you know, the families to prioritize that. But it really, you know, you talk about one of the sessions I went to was on data, and they focused a lot on absenteeism in this one school. And you kind of wonder that those whys behind the absenteeism, and it kind of, I don't know, eliminated why that might be happening in some cases. I attended different sessions than Chad. We tried to kind of bring home as much knowledge as we could by doing different things. Some of the really neat things I heard about were Spencer schools made this moonshot goal. Their literacy rate had decreased a lot. So they made this moonshot goal as a district to have their literacy or at their grade level literacy like 95% or something crazy like that. But it was really neat how they all got behind this goal, things that they were, you know, able to focus on meeting that literacy goal, and how they partnered with the community to meet that. Then I thought that was a really big takeaway. That was how like the whole community can rally around these goals in education and partner in really creative ways. While Chad was at the big picture workshop, I went to the Waterloo schools. They had a session on supporting student behavior and mental health. And they shared what they were doing, but we spent more time like in groups talking about what different resources different schools had and how they're utilizing. Oh, one of the schools has like, each school has its own counselor, not employed by the school district, but a contracted counselor for each school. And just some really, and I think they use their at-risk funding for that, I believe. I left my notes at home. So, and then the basic needs and building block networks at Muscatine schools, just helping how they help families navigate community resources to help them be more successful in the supports that they have in place too. So it all kind of, I don't know, came back to meeting those basic needs to help students be more successful so they can focus on the learning. So really valuable experience. And if anyone has opportunity to do a poverty simulation like that was super, like, it was stressful. It was really like, and I can't imagine living that day to day. You know, it was just, wow, really impactful. So,
And we have kids living that every day.
yep.
Unfortunately, well, by all means, share what you think we should, bring to the administration to, if you saw some good ideas or when you look at your notes that we can share with them. Okay, anything else? One thing I'd like to add is, Lily, are you gonna be at our next meeting?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
gonna take my tag because my grad party's before it, but I'll be back for the next one.
Okay, you'll be at the 18th.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you this meeting too, but I just want to make sure you'll be at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else for the good of the cause?
Thank you, Lily.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, any motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.